pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Dean Rice.
Here.
Bill Boylan.
Here.
Bryce Steiner.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
John DeVore.
Here.
Ryan Smith.
Here.
Okay, we've already taken care of swearing John in.
Welcome aboard, John.
Thank you.
Due to technical difficulties with the recording last month, we did paper minutes. Everybody's had a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting. Entertain a motion to approve as presented.
I move we approve.
I will second.
Motion on the floor to approve the minutes from the April meeting. Dean Reister.
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
Bill Boylan.
Yes.
Bryce Steiner.
Abstain.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
And John DeVore.
Yes.
Moving along, everyone has had a chance to review the bank reconciliation and the finance reports from the month of April. If there's no questions, entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Make motion to approve.
I'll second.
Jason Franks. Motion on the floor to approve the April finance report and bank reconciliation. Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
Moving on, and at this time we'll recognize the guest that has to be on the agenda, Tonya. If you could come up here so you would be on video, and reminder, you've got 3 minutes to present to council.
Okay. Does John sign on this stuff too? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So you just sign anywhere.
Good evening, my name is Tonya Walker. I am the sole proprietor of Crazy Crafters LLC. I have a vendor license and a tax ID. I am a home-based small craft business. Basically what that means for me is I get to craft in the comfort of my home, but I need to rely on church bazaars and local vendor events like Day in the Park and Antwerp Days to sell my items. Oh, and I get to pay taxes on the goods I sell. With everything going on, who knows how much longer the local events will be held. Quite a few have stopped happening already. I am here because of the garage sale ordinance that is being proposed. I would like to know who is really against yard sales. Most people like going to garage sales for the bargains. If you have kids, they outgrow their clothes fast. Having a sale is a great way to get rid of them, but also help other parents with kids. It can save you money. New clothes are expensive and kids go through them quickly. If you're just starting out, buying secondhand household items helps with expenses. When you decide to change the decor in your house, selling the old items helps pay for new ones. Would you rather see all of these items go into a landfill? I think it was said a few times in the zoning meeting that they wanted people to sell their own things on their own property. What about multifamily yard sales? Sometimes one person doesn't have enough to hold a sale, but if they combine with their friends and family, it can make a nice sale. Maybe I don't have a garage, but my neighbor does. Will the ordinance make it so people can't combine their products for a sale? Something was said about not buying things just to sell them. Sometimes you buy things thinking you'll like them, but don't, so you sell them. As a small business, it's getting harder to find events to set up at. Usually local churches and a few committees will put on bazaars or vendor events. Because of COVID and the work that goes into putting on an event, they aren't happening as much. It is harder to find places to sell our products. Small businesses need some exposure and time to build up a clientele before becoming a brick and mortar business. Becoming and continuing to be a business is very hard for everyone. Setting up at vendor events gives us all a chance to see how it will go. In September, I hold an event. I invite local vendors to set up and sell their wares. It's an outside 2-day event. We set up in our yard and neighboring yards. This will be our 5th year. Last year was our biggest event with 19 vendors and a food truck. We were spread out in 5 yards. I asked for copies of any legal complaints about our sale. I was informed there has never been a complaint about my sale or others. With no legal complaints about any sales, I don't understand why we're even talking about the ordinance. I make sure before the event to contact the police department and let them know and ask them to keep an extra eye out since everything stays set up overnight. They do a great job patrolling our area. I know there's something about signs. My signs are regular yard signs. We put them out Thursday evening before our sale and take them down Saturday after our sale. GPS usually takes people to East Canal Street instead of west, so that signs help the out-of-town and out-of-state customers find us. I work in Fort Wayne, so my coworkers show up for our sale. Some even take the time to check out other businesses in town. I let them know what businesses are open and where they can get food. We have had people from out of town show up because they follow some of our vendors. I need to know how this ordinance affects my sale. Will I be able to hold my sale? Do we need permits? How many? Is it time for me to take my sale to another town? I've been told I can get buildings in Paulding and Hicksville. When I started this event, COVID had us all shut up for months. It was a way to get people out. I have continued the event to give our small village something to look forward to and help fellow vendors have a place to sell their wares. And if you want proof, here's my vendor's license and tax.
Thank you.
Jan has been to my sale.
I have one question for you.
Yes,
When you advertise your sale, you advertise it as a craft and art show and sale,
yeah,
rather
it's,
than garage sale?
now we just call it, Crazy Crafters and Friends Annual Sale. Because we mostly have, craft vendors, food truck.
Okay. Yeah, but you're like you said, you're an LLC, small business. And in my opinion, that's, you're putting on you're sponsoring the event through your business. You're not a private individual, so it wouldn't, this ordinance for the garage sale wouldn't cover you because you are a business that is sponsoring the event, and it happens to be at your property and neighboring property. So I wouldn't think that, including the sign, would be an issue because you're not running a garage sale or holding one at that time. But that's my opinion.
But I also set signs out around town, and I thought there was something said about only wanting
Right.
signs in
Well,
your own yard.
Like I said, since it's a business event or something, it would not, the signs, the permits, and all that stuff wouldn't be part of what you would have to do.
I just want to
In
be
my-
positive before I have all these vendors up in the yards
Right.
and somebody shows up and says, hey, you gotta take this down.
I was just gonna say, I don't think this next would apply to you. This is just coming to us,
I
and
know.
so I know, we're gonna have a discussion about it. I think a lot of us have had calls and people have discussed with us, disagreements about it. And so I think it's good that you come in and talk because you do a lot for the community and we appreciate that. But I don't think this is like targeting that, and so I think you're gonna be safe there. And like Bill said, I think with it being a business, it'd be like, Antwerp Days or Day in the Park, we put banners up and signs up. And so if you're putting on a bazaar, again, I think that's the same thing. But I appreciate you coming in and talking to us, and I think, I think you'll find that it's probably not gonna end up being what it's hyped up to be. But
With some of the wording that was being said, and I know it wasn't set in stone, I just wanted to be positive.
Yes, ma'am.
Because like I say, I can't have 20 vendors set up and someone show up and go, hey, you gotta shut this down.
right, no, that'd be bad for everybody. So, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
George is gonna be in later or not for the police report. But haven't seen him today at either, so. Any committee reports?
Yeah, we had zoning committee met last Thursday. We had quite a few things on our plate to do. We were kind of behind. We had missed a month of meetings, and then we had changed our zoning or zoning inspector, so we kind of got out of track. We discussed an application for a variance board zoning appeals on the property down there across from the dispensary. And we went through the laws, and you have a copy of it in the back of your packet. It shows all the different brackets. It talks about the parking lots. It's the second one from the bottom. And parking lots are not allowed in any zoning area in Antwerp. So it doesn't mean you can't have a parking lot, but what it does mean is if you want to put one in, it automatically has to go to the appeals board, and they have to meet on it in a public hearing so that people, the neighbors next to them or anybody that's affected by it has an opportunity. It's not an automatic, we're putting in a parking lot type of deal. It's, you'll see in that chart that it has it listed as an accessory for I-2, which is the grain elevator. Their parking lots, all that, they went through the board originally, not our board, but they went through and got the proper stuff in order to put them in. So that's what why we reviewed it, we decided we needed to send it on. They had discussed possibly making it a B2 area to where they wouldn't be required, but according to the ordinances, no matter where you put it, they have to go through the appeals board. So that's why it was moved on. It's been posted on the front door and on Facebook and our website. So that's where we went on that one. We discussed the part of, it started out as a trailer ordinance and it's been kicked around, and then the Oak would come out with a newspaper ad, I believe last month or something, and we had contacted them, the mayor or the village administrator wasn't able to get back to the zoning inspector in time for our meeting, because we wanted to review theirs, we reviewed Lima's, because there's a lot of legal stuff. If you're gonna condemn a property or a structure, you can't just go and say it's bad. You've gotta have the proper paperwork, you have to have proof that it's devalued to a point to work non-fixable and stuff. So that's what we're working with on that. And in the new business, you'll see all these ordinances that we've passed through on it to try and get it done. So I suppose we get the new business, we'll have more discussion on it, but that's what we worked on. And hopefully it wasn't any problems, too many. But
Can I make a comment on that? Sure. So at the Oakwoods ordinance actually came from Antwerp. They copied ours. George took it directly over there. So we already have it in our book. So it's not something we have to re-engineer the wheel on. Might need some modifications, but it's already in our zoning and our rules.
I'll say at that time, I didn't know what Oakwood had or where they were getting theirs from.
It literally came from Antwerp.
So that's what we had for a committee report.
Any other committee reports? If not, we'll move into the fiscal officer report. Okay, the first thing on the fiscal officer report is the emergency reading of resolution 2025-08. This is a, excuse me. Oh, George, do you want to give your police report before I start the fiscal officer report? Or, yeah.
Is there any questions?
Thank you, George, for providing that
Good
report
job,
to us.
George.
Thanks, George.
Okay, so first item on the fiscal officer report is the emergency reading of resolution 2025-08. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the police chief of the village of Antwerp, Ohio regarding payment of his accrued but unused sick leave time and declaring the same an emergency. As you've seen when you come in, there was some modifications that were made to this after further review in the Ohio Revised Code, where there will be no carryover of sick time. It'll basically be starting effectively new.
You zeroed out?
Zeroed out. That's the biggest change on it, or the only change, right? Correct, Raymond? That's the only change.
Yep.
So, since you guys had a chance to review it prior, other than that change, is there a motion to suspend the rules on 3 readings?
What fund does that come out of?
Going to come out of the Severance Pay Reserve Fund, as mentioned in the resolution.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules, sorry.
Is there a second to Bryce's motion?
I'll second it.
Motion on the floor to suspend the rules of 3 readings on resolution 2025-08. Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
John DeVore.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, at this time we would need, unless there's further questions, we need a motion to adopt the resolution 2025-08.
I'll make it.
Jason
I'll
Franks.
second.
Motion on the floor to adopt resolution 2025-08. Jason Franks,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
Moving on, we have resolution 2025-09. This is an emergency resolution. It's a resolution of necessity to levy a replacement with an increase of an existing tax in excess of 10 mil limitation for the purpose of maintaining and operating a cemetery. This was brought to I spoke with Sean Dooley in regards to the levy. We always run these 2 years, I get, or we are allowed to put it on the ballot 2 years before it expires. So it's not ready to expire yet. This just gives us the opportunity, if it does fail, we can actually run it again next year. Sean recommended that we run this as a replacement levy because even with the increase last time, they're still running awful tight, and he thinks there's going to be future expenses that are going to go up too, because as of now, they've got the employee that's mowing has been doing it for several number of years, and they expect him to retire sometime soon. So they're going to probably have to contract out the mowing of cemeteries. So
The copy I have is not marked as emergency entitled.
in title, it's not. If you go down to
It is in the
in
text.
the text,
But do we need, since we have 2 years, do we need to make this an emergency?
well, to be able to get it on the, I dropped the ball. I'll admit, I dropped the ball. We have
Okay.
the levy of necessity first. That'll send it to the county auditor to then to tell us what we'll actually collect.
Okay.
Then we'll do the levy to place it on the ballot for the citizens to decide if they want to do that.
Okay. Let
So
me ask one more
we have to have
question.
everything in by August. So in order to get the time frame to meet August deadline, we have to do it as
Then we can
emergency.
have 3 readings as a regular ordinance to put it on the ballot.
It says the amount of taxes that will be raised within the 10 mil limitation will be insufficient. But then in section 10, subsection B, it says we're only intending to go 1 mil. Is that,
So the 10 mil
that
is
to be
the, that's
replaced?
the general, no, the 10 mil is the general levy. And then if
Correct.
we have any other levies in excess of that 10 mil, then we have to, it's a 1 mil levy. So our general fund gets that 10 mil that's already automatically on
Okay.
everybody's houses. And then if like the fire levy, the police levy and everything is in excess of the 10 mil. So this is
Gotcha.
another levy. It's not a new levy. This levy's been out, well, ever since I've been here. It's just we're putting it on the ballot for the citizens to be able to decide.
And this
for
is a
renewal.
this is a replacement, not a renewal, right?
Correct. Replacement would be based on the new property values. And
Okay.
that was based on what Sean explained to me, because I asked him if he needed to run it as renewal or replacement.
Okay.
He said last time that this was on the ballot, they did it as a replacement. It did increase the revenue, but they're still pretty much setting flatline, obviously with inflation. Even with the increased cost, the cost of everything just continues to go up, so that's why he recommended we run it as a replacement.
Did you use a flat line joke with Sean?
No.
Okay, just making sure.
I move we suspend the rules for 3 readings.
Motion on the floor to suspend the rules of 3 readings by Dean. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor to suspend the rules of 3 readings. Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yeah.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
At this time, we would entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-09 for the levy of necessity.
I move we adopt.
I'll second.
Is that Jason?
Yeah.
Motion on the floor to adopt Resolution 2025-09. Dean Reister,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
Signature on that. Moving on to emergency reading of Resolution 2025-10. This is a resolution authorizing the village to enter into a new annexation agreement with Carryall Township, Paulding County, Ohio, regarding certain real property located adjacent to the village and declaring the same an emergency. I'll let you speak to the need for this one.
Yeah, so Tim Copsey with Paulding County Economic Development got in contact with me late last week. We had previously had a resolution go through council to approve this. Back in December, the information that we were given at the time is no longer the case. The legal description of the property has changed due to a required new survey by the county. And then in the interim, the property has been conveyed from Marlin Farms to BMJW Investments. Because of that, when they took that to the county to have it passed by resolution by the county commissioners, the county engineer and auditor made them aware that that would no longer be valid because it's now owned by someone else and the property dimensions are different. My understanding is the property dimensions are very slightly different, but this information was given to me on Friday, so I tried to get it put together, and unfortunately was only able to get it put together for everyone today. But yeah, that's what it is. It's just reauthorizing the village to enter into that annexation agreement with the county, or excuse me, with the township. What that does in a nutshell is just say, While the annexation is pending, the township will continue to have the property tax revenues from that property. As soon as the annexation is done and official, then the village will receive those property taxes.
There's no questions.
Which property is it?
This is on the property up in like 24.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I haven't had a chance to read through it, so.
There's no other questions. Entertain a motion to suspend the rules for 3 readings.
There's no other change other than Exhibit A, and the name of the company, right?
Yep,
I mean,
yeah,
We're
so-
approving the same thing in the same terms, nothing.
Correct.
Okay.
just have-
I'll second whatever he said.
You second, so Bryce Steiner. There's a motion on the floor to suspend the rule of 3 readings. Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
At this time, we would entertain a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor to adopt resolution 2025-10. Brian Smith,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner, excuse me,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
and John DeVore.
Yes.
Moving on to the emergency reading of ordinance 2025-07. This is an ordinance accepting the conveyance of Paulding County Auditor's parcel number 12-07S-010-00 from the Community Improvement Corporation of Antwerp, Ohio, dedicating the same as Meyer Avenue in the village of Antwerp, Ohio, and declaring the same an emergency.
So what's our shortcome on that?
Stumpy property being conveyed to the village and the street.
I move we suspend the rules of 3 readings.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor to suspend the rules of 3 readings on ordinance 2025-07. Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
Okay, at this time we entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-07.
I move we approve.
So this is specifically because of that road that was put in, is that correct? It's renaming the road to Meyer Drive or
Meyer Avenue.
Meyer Avenue.
It's never had a name.
Yeah,
And
it's
they
been
made
a
it-
lot owned by the CIC.
They made a donation to name it with their name.
But it is that one that has just newly paved
Just
last
paved,
fall.
yeah.
That's the one.
That's the
Okay.
one.
I move we approve.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor to adopt ordinance 2025-07. Dean Reister,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
We're now on a road. And the name,
Next we have the first reading of ordinance 2025-08. This is an ordinance amending section 2 of ordinance number 2000-19, establishing a schedule of fees, charges, and expenses and collection procedure for zoning permits, amendments, appeals, variances, conditional use permits, and other matters relating to the administration and enforcement of zoning in the village of Antwerp, Ohio, and regulating the fees to be paid for the zoning inspector for the services. This is one that was started last fall and then was sent back to zoning for the amounts. And I think, Bill, you brought up that they finished up correcting the amounts that they wanted, correct?
Yes, originally, when we submitted it first time, we had a fee of $500 in there for
Appeal.
zoning change appeal. And the council said it was extreme and possibly would not be able to collect it, so we went back and redid it and set it for $250. And we come back, and then the council said, well, we needed to adjust the rest of the fees because they hadn't been done for 25 years. We were still back there. So basically what we did, we kept everything, we just doubled all the fees for most everything except for the one that's for $250, and that stayed the same. So that's what the change was, and since it's been going back and forth for 3 months or better, that's why it's
This is revised, yeah.
been revised.
I would like to suggest a change in that, and I think it was discussed that we were going to double all of them, which we did, except the 5 cents per square foot, I thought was supposed to go to 10. Because it was 5 cents 20 years ago, and many other places are actually a lot higher, not that that matters, because we're Antwerp, but I think we should bump the square footage up to 10 cents per square foot in the section 2 of the schedule of fees, to be consistent.
Do you wanna make a motion to that effect, to have Brandon revise the ordinance? Is that what you're getting, or you just want?
That is exactly, yeah, I mean, I would entertain discussion to see if I'm out of line, but I think that's what would be a good idea to do. And I will make a motion towards that, but if somebody else thinks can come up with a reason why not to do it, then please share.
Bryce has made a motion to adjust the schedule in section 2 from 5 cents per square foot to 10 under the zoning permit fee. Is there a second to his motion?
I'll second it.
Motion on the floor to have Brandon revise ordinance 2025-08 in section 2 to change from 5 cents per square foot to 10 cents per square foot.
Can I clarify real quick before we vote? Will we be changing both the zoning permit fee and the zoning permit fee for fences only, both of those to 10 cents? Or just-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and wherever it is listed, one is 5 cents per square foot, the other would be 5 cents per linear foot.
So the 10 cents, 10 cents.
10 cents, yes. Change them, whatever says 5 cents, now moves to 10.
So just using an average of about a 2,500 square foot home, that's about $125 for a permit. If we change it to 10 cents, then that permit goes up to $250. That's
Correct.
kind of what we're looking at, is just an average. I don't think it's unreasonable myself.
Well, I will tell you, I mean, I just actually did just processed paperwork on the house today, and the zoning fee is $252, but they're also building, they call it a barn, but it's an oversized shed shop. But my point is in contact, or in conversations with contractors, they're amazed that we don't require them to have permits, and they're amazed that we do not charge them REIT tax. So 5 or 10 cents a foot is dirt cheap. Really is.
And what you just suggested might need to be remedied.
Okay, so well, there
Another
is,
day.
That's another day.
there is a motion on the floor to revise ordinance 2025-08 from 5 cents per square foot and 5 cents per lineal foot to 10 cents on both.
I'll second that.
Well, Bill Boylan already seconded it.
I'm sorry.
So Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
So we will have a first reading of it as revised next month.
I saw that's in section 1 as well, right?
Well, section 1 is the old.
Yeah.
That's the old.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
section
Yeah.
2 is the new the new one.
Gotcha.
So we'll make the revisions for next month and start it back over. Moving on to ordinance 2025-09. It's the first reading of an ordinance renaming a portion of Stone Street in the village of Antwerp, Ohio, spanning from the intersections of Stone Street and South Main Street to the intersections of Stone Street and Erie Street to Bourbon Street. I don't think there are any questions on that one. If not, I'm finished with the fiscal officer report. We'll move into old business. So in old business, you all received a updated letter in regards to the business on Buffalo Street. Basically, the change that was made on that from the original council packet was who was in charge of enforcing the zoning violation and the names of the signatures on the letter. But if there's no discussion, I think we need a motion to proceed with this, correct, Randy? To proceed with sending these letters?
I don't think we need to send it, as she's already moved out. I think she's already done what was asked of her. I think this could cause other issues.
Well,
That's my
I feel like we need to follow through with where we're at. I mean, if she has already done, then the letter's null and void, but at least if she hasn't, then we can say that she has been notified. So we have our legal standing that she's in violation,
And property owner too.
and the property owner. I mean, I guess from what I hear, I don't know for sure, but they've said they've quit before, and they have not, so to hear them say they've quit again to not get the letter, I would rather see them get the letter, so we're at least have our legal standing.
Did anybody go down and talk to her?
I have not.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I think if we
I think,
don't go forward with that letter,
I
if
think
she
this is-
leaves, she comes back a month later and starts all over again, and then you're right back to square one. You
Well,
gotta,
that's sadly to the landlord too, because technically if he rents it to the next person and they do the same thing, I mean, that kind of resets the wheel, if it will, I think. So,
I think there's other issues going on that we haven't all heard about. And we also, I'm not sure that meeting was conducted well, because we were told before that the meetings aren't valid unless people were sworn in on that December 3rd meeting. We had a meeting in July, and that didn't take place. So just be wary of this kind of stuff. We aren't following through consistently on these meetings. And there's a couple other things, but I think by moving out, she's already taken care of it. So I'll just done speaking on that. So if you want to go ahead and send it, go ahead and vote, but
I mean, are we sure she moved out? Is that?
I talked to her,
Okay.
okay? I specifically talked to her because I want to find out what's going on.
When did you talk to her, Bryce?
Oh, about 3 days ago.
3 days ago? And she said she was gone? I think we still should send the letters, just so we've got it on record that we did it.
My personal opinion would be I would rather see people start hobbies and turn them into businesses that we could turn like a building that isn't being used. Offer that like a door, a letter that opens doors rather than closes them, and say, hey, maybe instead of doing it out of your house, maybe for 3 months we could help you get a business license, help you expand. We've got some empty space upstairs. Maybe we could help people rather than close doors on them.
I'm not gonna disagree with what you're saying, but from what I recall in the beginning, people had suggested that she get locations outside of her house to run her warehouse in part of her business.
Yeah.
And evidently she has chosen not to go with that advice.
Well, she hasn't moved it out. I mean, she's exactly followed through. It's just outside of town.
But,
I'd rather see people.
My last email about the whole
Here.
thing was just last Friday, was an email that I've got among many emails that I have received about this business disturbing the neighborhood or whatever it's doing down there. I don't live there and I don't travel that way, but I understand it's a dead-end street that's narrow.
Correct.
And from what I can tell, she's been notified, she's been told. I'm not saying that I don't want people to have businesses, but when your businesses infringe on the neighbors and they complain or at least put off enough that they send emails complaining to the legislative body of the village that we're not doing anything about it, then I feel like we should probably do something about it. I mean, I'm all for people running businesses, but they can't infringe on the neighbors.
well, and I think it came out that it's not an official business. Like, she's not paying taxes on any of that stuff she's selling, so there's no tax money coming to the village. So it's just basically she's running her business without restrictions and doing what she wanted. And people have brought up like daycares and tax services, but I'm pretty sure the tax guy's probably filing taxes, I would assume. Daycares, I don't know, it becomes, the ordinance actually says like you can't sell objects. So that's different than a daycare, and I think that's where we ran into the issues and, so.
No, we probably don't need to rehash it all.
Right,
You know,
no.
I think that's a very valid concern. At the same time, not having a vendor's license also kind of says I'm a hobby. You know, no signs, no retail storefront, nothing like that. That's why I like to encourage people to, hey, come up here, let the town help you. Let's be a gateway rather than a.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I think we
I'm
did
all
make
for that.
suggestions. I mean, like he said, you know about, and you know, I mentioned like, you know, if you could spread it out. I think people are willing to bend if other people are willing to bend. But then what we hear from these emails is, you know, people are slamming their doors, revving their engines, honking their horns, being loud, and I think it becomes where they're doing it to be, you know, like, haha, we can do this, and what are you gonna do? And so that it creates more drama and more tension, and you know, we don't want in the village, but I don't disagree. You know, it's great. We have a lot of empty buildings. It would be awesome if you could figure out a way to get people in the buildings and
Absolutely.
so. I
Okay,
mean,
well, I think,
This is basically, we've discussed all this
I was just
before.
gonna say, we're discussing something before, right here, we're talking about, do we wanna proceed with the letter, so I think I need a motion,
I feel we should proceed.
So are
with
you
the letter.
making a motion to proceed?
I will.
Is there a second to Dean's motion to proceed with sending the letter?
I'll second.
Motion on the floor to proceed with sending the notices, both notices, to the business owner and the land property owner. Dean Reister,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
No.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
Brian Smith.
yes.
You should sign that, and I think Frank did. Page 2 on both. Okay, new business, I don't know if, Brian, do you wanna give your administrative report before we move into the stuff that was in the packet, or how do you wanna handle that?
Yeah, I can get mine, and then if you want to go over the two items, that's fine. I'd like to start in preference, I will need an executive session for acquisition of property, and we'll do that after the mayor gives her report, so we can turn the recording off, and then we just won't turn it back on, because we'll have no action. That's more of a comment or discussion we need to have. First thing is it is the time for our annual renewal of our Ohio plan that provides all the liability insurance and everything for the village. We have an increase. We are going from $41,576 in the year 2025 to $44,217 for the year 2026. What has caused the increase is there's a 3% increase just overall for inflationary measures, but we also increased our insurance liability coverage by $2.1 million. We have 3 fire trucks that were, I'm gonna say grossly underinsured, and we added an additional $200,000 worth of coverage per fire truck, for a total of $600,000. We also took out a policy on earthquake coverage, and I know I was not in favor at first, but when they came back and told us the number of seismic events in this area, it kind of became apparent that we probably ought to just go ahead and get it. So we put on that rider, and that's $1 million. So if the village hall falls down, we'll have extra money to build something. But we took one of the vehicles off the insurance, but at the end of the day, we got about a $2,800 increase, and we'll execute that probably tomorrow, but I just wanted to give you an update on that.
Is that insurance, is it completely, if a fire truck, do we have to pay anything if a fire truck would get destroyed?
We have deductible,
We have deductibles on everything.
but it is replacement cost of a new one versus,
I
you know,
saw it
we've got a
was listed
1998 truck or something, they don't replace it with equal value of that,
It's current
Current value.
value, and
That's
it's the
what-
same thing for the building, because it looked like the building might only be 400,000, but I would guess.
I'd have to actually look at the
I
policy,
would
because
guess
there's
a
so many
building
different things.
replacement cost would be significantly higher at this point in time.
So I have some more discussions about insurance if we want to do that, or we can wait till after your report. Because I was reviewing the insurance also,
You're talking about the insurance on liability and stuff?
the liability for the village, yes.
Certainly.
So when I was reviewing the insurance that we had, I was looking through the events that we've got, and the village carries liability insurance for the day in the park and trick or treat. So, and I know we have other events that happen on village property in the community. So when I was reviewing, I asked ACDC if they had policy, since we weren't carrying it, and they carry an insurance liability policy that covers their Red Fest Day and any other events that ACDC has. But my concern is we have other events in town that are occurring, that are growing and getting larger, and I don't know if they have insurance coverage. So I don't know if we can reach out to some of the other event holders, or if they're actually sanctioned to get, proof of insurance for their events.
Well, I mean, it's certainly,
I mean, anything happening on village property is a huge liability for the village. And I feel it needs to be covered by a liability policy. If we're not covering it, then I feel as though whoever the event coordinators are need to cover it.
The Antwerp Chamber, when they were doing Day in the Park, they always had a writer for that.
Yeah, the chamber does those,
but
and
I do-
that's on ours as a writer with the chamber. I believe we cover that.
I would assume Rotary, now that they took over, I would assume they do. I don't know that. Do we, so you're asking, do we verify that they have their own coverage in addition to ours?
Well, I'm
Because
just saying that
They're
we,
gonna, whoever's gonna sue is gonna sue the guy who's got the most insurance.
yeah, our village has insurance writers in our coverage. It was in the email we received on our insurance policy. And the only two things that I seen listed on the Antwerp Village coverage is trick or treat and the day in the park, and they're both sponsored by the chamber, is what it says in our insurance policy. So that shows that we have coverage through the village insurance policy for those two events. My concern was Ribfest, and that's sponsored by ACDC, which is a 301c, and they have their own liability coverage for that event. So the village isn't actually liable for injuries during that event. But I know we have other events in town. Actually, Ms. Walker back here actually said that she's got an event that happens partly. Okay, so that's great.
I'm legit.
That's what we need.
100% legit.
So that's fine. And then there's the other one that I believe they call it Rock on the River, which I don't know if that's a sanctioned organization that's running that. Do we have
they've never approached the village and asked for authorization to use it.
because that event seems to be growing too, and happening on the side of a river after hours, in the dark, fires and whatever else is going on out
CDC
there.
doesn't
With
have
alcohol.
anything to.
Yeah, I don't know that. I've never been there. I've never been to the event, but I've heard it's spectacular, and I want to encourage the event, but I want to make sure that the liability of the village is being protected. So,
Well, I mean, the village liability insurance would not cover it. At the end of the day, Bryce is correct. He who has the largest pocket is usually the first one on the list to be sued. But we don't have insurance on that. And we talked to our insurance company, and they recommended that the event sponsor get a liability policy. It gets a little expensive to put that in your annual, rider, and you say, well, there's open bonfires, and there's fireworks, and there's alcohol, and there's water. They start looking at this and they say, well, this is going to get kind of
it
expensive.
actually is after hours of the park. The posted park hours are dusk to dawn. I know this is an evening event, so I'm concerned of whether or not, I don't want to say it's the park board's decision, but if anybody's ever reached out for permission to even use the park, that's the village property after hours with all the rules violations. That's my concern. I don't say that I don't want the event. I just want to see the liability of the village be minimized.
I think you got an excellent point. So maybe on all these events, we need some kind of a sheet that says you have purchased insurance, please provide a copy.
Yeah, I know in the past we've had people that's done work for the village on village property, and I believe we've had them sign off on liability forms, releasing the village from injury and liability during whatever those deals were too. So, not sure how we would go about finding out who the event sponsors are legally.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you and Bryce, like relative to it's a big liability. But it sounds like most of them have some sort of,
Coverage, everybody, all the events are
I know
covered.
the Rock on the River is new, so maybe they just aren't aware that
Might,
if nobody's
they
told
may
them.
not be aware they need it. But
Especially with fireworks, so you're really talking.
Yeah, well, no, like you
And maybe
said.
they do have it.
maybe they do have
Yeah.
it, but I'd
Yeah.
like to see it, or
Yeah.
at least show proof of it.
Well, the
Right.
one thing is
Liability.
that if they have it, then in order to use the park, they would have to name Antwerp as one of the writers on the policy, the Village of Antwerp.
And
Otherwise,
provide proof of
It,
coverage.
I mean, it doesn't give you a hold harmless, so they would need to, and it doesn't cost anything, the insurance agent goes in and just puts in Village of Antwerp, and so, but I mean, yeah, there needs to be a conversation with the folks with that event. I've never been asked if it's permissible, they've never asked permission of the village, they may have talked to somebody else, but I've never had a conversation with anybody.
So who do we have to reach out to these? I mean, those people. I guess we already know CIC, or
ACDC does
ACDC
Rib
covers
Fest.
Rib Fest. So is that, and that's Antwerp days.
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
Yeah, and then Day in the Park. I know CIC or Rotary takes that over.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they have.
So those three events, I'm pretty sure, I haven't actually seen the proof of insurance from the ACDC, but I presume that they wouldn't have pulled my leg.
Right now, I don't think. I'm sure.
And that means we also probably need to change on our current, on what they sent us, that, our chamber is not the one hosting those in the park anymore.
It's the Rotary.
It's the Antwerp Rotary.
We can let Conrad know to make that change.
I think the village has to have a copy of their insurance policy on file.
Yeah.
So you just start, taking somebody's word, oh yeah, we got plenty, and all they got's $100,000.
Yeah, but I mean, they can go get a liability policy for 24 hours. It's not like they have to pay for 365.
Right.
Right.
They just go in and, it's a couple $100 or whatever it is, and you have it for 24 hours, and you don't use it, it goes away, that's it.
Right.
I think we should have some.
Do we need a resolution stating that all events need to provide proof of insurance to the village? That would be part of the permit process if we have one for events.
Well, we don't have a permit process, but I don't
Okay.
disagree. We probably should have a resolution stating that if you're gonna use village property, here's the process that you have to take. And
Yeah.
one is, provide us a copy of your, and there should be a minimum dollar amount valuation. I mean,
Yes.
when I was at the county, it was a minimum of $1 million policy. But,
Probably twice that now.
I was gonna say,
well,
last time I took
depends on what you're
liability-
doing.
Last time I took a liability, it was recommended I get a $5 million policy, so.
What do they do now if like somebody has a graduation party or a large gathering at the park?
I think
We
during
allow that.
the park day use and all that stuff's fine, it's all
This
within
is,
the.
Yeah.
this is special events.
Yeah.
Okay.
In theory,
Anybody
they
that
follow
would
the
get,
park rules.
anybody that would get hurt at the park during normal usage would be covered under the village liability.
So how would this affect the school for having cross-country events? Are they
That's
listed?
another question.
I don't think it's necessarily an issue, because
Okay.
if you feel like it, you can go run through the park right now. So, I mean, it's not much different.
Well,
I
I'm
don't-
thinking
I
of
don't-
more like an athlete from Timbuktu Falls.
Are they doing them in the park anymore?
Yes.
Okay.
They
I
did
knew they
last
quit
year.
for a while
I would-
because they were putting in the
Yeah.
splash pad and all that, but they're back to doing
I
it.
would-
As far as I can tell, they are.
Okay,
Yes.
fine.
And maybe the school, it has that covered.
I
already.
would presume that school would be covering
But-
their students.
Yeah.
No matter where they're at, if they're taking them somewhere, but it's a
Well,
question
yeah,
that
because they'd
could
be
be
like going to a
asked.
football, playing a football game and getting hurt.
Right.
I would think.
So could you draft a resolution of what we're talking about? Because I
Yeah.
think we
need
should
to know the
have,
limit of liability that we're gonna require though, so you guys are gonna have to tell him what to put in there. If it's $1 million or $5 million or $2 million or.
I mean, last time I had liability for just on side work, it was 5 million.
If you're talking a crowd, if something happens and half a dozen people are injured at once.
yeah, and maybe it's based on number of people. Like if you've got 50 people versus
I don't think
That's
how
gonna be hard to
insurance
enforce
works.
though, because how are you gonna know how many they're gonna have?
Right.
It's easier just to say a
What do you,
limit.
what do you think a $2 million policy costs? I mean,
You're probably a couple $100 for a day, like you said.
Okay.
It shouldn't be much. I mean, it's not like.
I'd say
Okay.
maybe $2 million.
Yeah, I would say let's start there. If in the month between now and the next meeting, we find that we are woefully in error, then we can ask for a modification. But I do think we need to have a piece of paper provided by an insurance company that states their event
Proof
is
of
covered
insurance.
and the Village of Antwerp will not be held liable. Is that correct?
Well, the Village of Antwerp will be named as a,
Yes.
Additional insured.
yeah,
Yes, okay.
Can I ask a question on that?
no, ma'am. I'm sorry, but
If you've got an idea, I would love to hear it.
No, I just wondered, Jan, that one year that I had to call the mayor's office because a little girl got out of the vehicle and the water cover wasn't on, so she fell down the little hole.
Mhm.
That is still the city, or
Mhm.
that would be my insurance?
That was with the
I
city
believe that would
property.
be on but probably be on private property would be my guess.
Well, if it's in the road, right of way of the road, and it's our responsibility to
It wasn't
maintain
in your
them.
yard, right?
No, the one in the driveway.
Driveway.
Because apparently the lid wasn't on, so when she got out and stepped, she went down in and I had to call the mayor's office to get
Yeah.
somebody down there to fix it.
And we did it right away.
Yeah, somebody
Somebody
come
came
down.
and
One of the
fixed it
police
right
officers
away.
came down to make sure the little girl was okay and everything, and
Uh-huh.
then somebody came to get it taken care
Yeah,
of. But I mean, that would be out of my control because I don't mess with that thing.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad the town did the right thing.
Me too.
Ryan, you wanna finish up your?
Okay,
your,
sorry to interrupt.
that's all right. I don't even remember where I'm at, so. Okay, so, update on the water treatment plant. We were, on a Teams meeting, and, just before we got on, we got an email from the Ohio EPA telling us that, us being the engineers, not me, that they needed to make a change to our drawing and add a reverse flow preventer in a line that they overlooked. So we were this close from being done. So they had to do that, which didn't take very long, but now they had to send prints back down to the state and stuff. Our goal was to go and put out for bid next month with a bid opening in August. But that will be a little bit delayed because we still need to get the permit to install. But we paid Jones and Henry to fill out the paperwork and all the engineering stuff to apply for a WSRLA or RLFA loan through the state of Ohio. It's a combination of Ohio and federal, state of Ohio EPA and federal EPA loan, but it also has a debt forgiveness attached to it. So we filed for 8.2 million. The projected engineering cost is 7.2, but you always ask for more than what you need because you have no idea what the bids will be when they come back. The one good thing about this loan is there is up to 50% not to exceed 4 million in debt forgiveness. And because we are considered economically depressed because of our LMI being 55.24%, we would be eligible. So we'll know by the end of June the amount of the loan, and then we pursue debt forgiveness. I've already called a couple of our state lawmakers to put a bug in their ear and ask them to speak on our behalf and stuff. So anyways, we may have bid openings, it may be September now, but on the water treatment plant, and we, if we were able to do, what did I figure? If we were able to do the water treatment plant at 7.5 and we got 4 million forgiven and we had to then make payments on 3.5 million, this loan sets its interest rates every month before its monthly meeting. So you can't say, well, I mean, it's not locked for a year, it's locked for 30 days. So May's interest rate was 3.42%, so the payment would be about $189,000 a year on the 3.5 for 30 years, which is within our ability to pay because we paid out of the water fund over $300,000 last year just in engineering alone. So my point is, we're in a position where we can move forward, and the key will be is will we get debt forgiveness, and to what extent will we get debt forgiveness? Because without debt forgiveness, we can't float this. It's too much, way too much.
Without water increases.
Well, I mean, you could look at that.
And the other thing to figure out is how that debt forgiveness works, because a lot of times, from what my understanding was, that they'll still charge the interest on the whole loan throughout the process of it, and then at the end of the loan is when they forgive the debt. So you're paying interest on $7.5 million versus $3.5 million throughout.
Yeah,
You
I don't
have
know.
to find out how the debt forgiveness works. Is it upfront or is it at the end of the 30 years?
So we have that. Canal Wentworth, we were looking at trying to downsize the project. We have identified about $1 million in potential grant funding, but it leaves us $900,000 short. And so we tried to narrow the scope of the work, but we could only get it down to $1.5 million. I met with the commissioners today in Maumee Valley. We're going to put it on the critical infrastructure as soon as Payne has completed their water project, and right now they're just grading and seeding, so they probably 30 days or so. So if we get put on that, and we get that grant funding and stuff, that will help us. We'll also go out to OWPC to get a loan/grant. So I'm hoping we can, if we're fortunate enough, at least get 75% of the projects paid for through grants, and then we would move forward with that. But that, most of that funding, CDBG and those types of grants, are a September file date. So I mean, you're looking at October for you, even though whether or not you got it. So it's a little further down the road than the water plant. I talked with the commissioners about Mervyn Street. It is on the CDBG funding list for 2026. The question is going to be, depending on our finances, whether we want to wait another year, because this will be, we were going to do it last year and we had to wait, and now we have to wait this year, and then we might get the money in the summer of next year. So it's only about a $40,000 project, so we may just move forward and do it using some permissive tax funding and some other things that we have. So that's where we're at with that. Nothing new on Schaefer Road.
Brian, does Mervyn Street have new water lines in it?
We would put,
Before
our
we
crew
pave?
would put in water lines before
Okay.
they repave.
Okay.
Because you're right, they do
Yeah.
not.
As you say, I'd really hate to pave it, because
Yeah.
then the next weekend,
Yeah.
we know exactly what would happen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to share. I mean, we had the executive session. I think that's really all that I've got at this time, if you have any questions.
Did they get back to you on the water tower money?
No, I sent them an email this morning, and it'll take them a few days. I had asked, and I had told you before, there was a balance left over on the water tower project, and I asked that we be allowed to utilize that money in buying water meters, and the state has not. They've got everything, thanked me for it, but they have not come back and said yes or no. I sent an email today. Well, they sent us the email.
They approved it. but,
Yeah,
we
we
have
had
not
a final
received it.
report with them and stuff, so.
I have a question on Mervyn Street,
Mhm.
where the water line was broke and it was filled back in, the street's never been patched, and it's quite a mess down there. Got to be at least patched instead of leaving it in the state of affair that it is right now.
Well,
Gravel and dirt.
the problem is that, I mean, it needs a lot of patch. I mean, you'll have one patch spot and you'll still have a crappy road. The road has no usefulness left. I mean, it is absolutely shot and stuff. And we've gone down, we put some stone in down there for one of the homeowners at the edge of their driveway. We've tried to do some stuff, but it just doesn't stay because it's so beat up. And that's why I think waiting another year is probably not prudent. I think that we need to look at digging it up, putting the water line in, so these folks have a water line that doesn't break on them on a kind of a frequent basis. But also then we come in and put in some new asphalt and everything. And it needs to be widened slightly. So we're gonna try to do that a little bit. But
I know the one homeowner down there works third shift right in front of where that's been all tore up. And it makes a lot of racket with cars and stuff going.
oh, I know it. I hate it when I have to drive down there.
Something, rather than saying, well, you're stuck with it for another year.
Yeah, no, I think we'll probably move forward. I just gotta get with our guys to see what it's gonna take to put the water line, because we have to make a connection out here on 49 to put a shut-off valve out there and then come in on the Mervyn. And then we'll take it down and then we can dog leg to the left. Because what we ultimately wanna do is make a connection on, is it Wilcox is the next street over? To the north. Make a connection that water line so that we have a loop and we don't have a dead end. And that's what we have right now.
And we have that also with Buffalo too. And we have
We have
several of them, yeah. We've got issues
We've looked
with
at
that.
going and taking Buffalo out to Canal.
Yeah.
Stuff, but
Any update on the 49 repave?
no, that's a couple years off. I mean, we've got
This summer.
the 49. Oh,
Isn't that what you said?
it was going to be, but we requested that they not do it because they need to come in and redo 49 in town.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to come in and put 2 more inches of asphalt on top of what you already have.
Right.
Which means that you wouldn't have any gutters. You don't have really effective gutters now.
Gutters now.
But they need to, so we had to have it engineered, which we have done, to identify water lines, storms, sewers, things like that. And then we're going to look at getting, try to get funding to actually have that all tore up and redone and the street lowered so that the gutters become effective.
And Main Street has new water lines now, plastic.
Yeah, I think that Main Street does.
Okay. So we don't
I
have
think
to
that was
worry about-
done. I think we're still paying,
There's a loan out there, I have to look at.
yeah, but I think it's for like Main Street. Any other questions?
Did you mention something about Schaefer?
Yeah.
Or were you getting ready to? Or?
No,
Okay.
other than nothing's changed.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
And we can't reopen that.
not if you, well, if you want to take on the liability. Any other questions? Okay.
Next, Bill, you already touched on a few of these things. I don't know, in the new business down there that I had listed, the garage sale, I don't know what you handle that part of that, packet, or if there's any more discussion that we're gonna move forward with having Brandon draft an ordinance, or what we're doing.
Can I sneak in an old business question?
Sure.
I forgot. Was there any update on those banners? Like,
Yeah, I talked to the school again just a couple days ago.
Okay.
And he said they're waiting for a grant to come in, and now, he said school's out. There's not even gonna be discussion until school starts again.
Okay.
So-
I'll talk to you or talk to Kyle or whatever, but I think the CIC was considering maybe donating some money towards that,
Okay,
towards the project or towards the
Okay.
cause. So, yeah,
excellent.
so we can look at that or whatever, but they told me to ask where it was, because we
Yeah.
started talking about it, because other villages are doing it, whatever, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll get in touch with Kyle or talk to you or whatever, we'll
Mhm.
try to move that ball forward, so.
You said it's the CIC.
Yes.
CIC, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, new business, garage sales. I'm sure everybody's seen Facebook and the 200 complaints piled up on it. The reason this ordinance was generated, there's been numerous complaints back before I was on council, back before I was on zoning, of people running flea markets in town, leaving stuff set up, leaving the signs up. There was a lot of back and forth with it, but the village had no ordinance of any sort to deal with it. And then just recently, we've had a lady that claimed she was running an online garage sale. She wasn't running the business, so that the ordinance didn't apply to her. So that's what's caused this to be generated. There's a part in the back of it, like let's see, is it June, when we're having our village-wide, June 13th and 14th. There would be no permits required for that date or any time at the village, whatever date they set up for village-wide. And we discussed it, and the average person, and I know a lot of people are up in arms, but annually, year after year, do they have 2 garage sales every year? Or do they have more than 3 garage sales at any time? You can be all up in arms about this stuff, but if it doesn't actually affect you, we're trying to limit, the situations that we've got problems with. I know it's quite controversial. I talked to the village administrator in Hicksville. He sent me a copy of their permits. They also require a permit during their village-wide garage sale for people to get them, which I don't see any need for that. If the whole village is gonna have one, why put people through the hassle of it? So and the reason the description on ours is so intense, I guess you would call it, garage sales, yard sales, porch sales, because if you say garage sale, it's too easy to skirt around the edge and say, well, no, this is not a garage sale, this is my porch sale or whatever. So that's the reason it's very descriptive. I know it's probably one of the least popular things we've tried to get through, but that's the basis for it. Permits would be free, and it's something, if we had the right tech, we could have everything online. People wouldn't even have to go up to wherever Jan would decide that this would pass. But this is, these are recommendations from the zoning, and at this point, we'd like permission from the council to proceed to give it to the village solicitor to have it rolled up as a actual ordinance. So this is a good time to talk about it, discuss it, deny it, so we're not gonna waste time trying to make an ordinance out of it later on if it's not gonna fly tonight. So that's the purpose for this. So that's the garage sale one. You want to just do these one at a time?
Yeah, probably should.
So what initiated the garage sale permit? The discussion, how did it get started?
Well, back year after year, there's an individual here in town on the main drag that runs basically flea markets. They're set up for various days, more than the 3. They're usually 5 to 6 a year, or 4. Yeah, there's been a lot of complaints. It's just, a flea market looks like it's on the junky side, it's used stuff, rusty stuff. So that would have been the complaints, and we really don't have any way to deal with it as far as, you drive into town and you see, stuff set up like that. Boy, this place looks like a dump. So that was the purpose of the original one, to have, the garage sale, so.
So not being whatever, I'm just throwing it. If it sounds like the reason the permits are being introduced is because there's a problem with somebody's yard, so wouldn't we just address that? Yeah, I mean, if people think it's junk or whatever, or that kind of thing.
Well,
versus,
you can, but what are you gonna use? You're just gonna tell him, you say, well, go fly your own kite? It's his property.
Yeah. No, I'm just.
That's the problem we had. You can't say anything if there's nothing, there's not a standard set that, this is acceptable and this isn't.
Yeah. I watched the video, and I know you guys are trying to do good things, and I hate to beat stuff up because obviously I know you guys all volunteer. You're not getting paid to do this. Like somebody was commenting on how people show up looking at the meeting. Like these guys do not get paid. They work all day, they show up, and then they get hammered over something that, again, they're just trying to do a positive thing. So I've had a ton of people reach out to me about this. Then there's a lot of people in disagreements, and I get what you're saying, and that's what I kind of told people. I think this is sprouting from the issue with that house where, she's selling things and it's like, well, I'm just having a garage sale versus, and I'm selling out of the house or whatever. I have a neighbor that I think does garage sales quarterly. And I think, as Tonya pointed out, one of the things, you know, a lot of people in this village have 3, 4, or 5 kids that play in softball, baseball, basketball, football. You know, like my kid grows out of stuff every time we touch his closet, I gotta throw out a box of things. So I think, you know, with that, if people have that amount of stuff, it's hard for me to say, well, man, you don't have enough stuff to, you know, do 4 garage sales a year or whatever. I guess if people are complaining about it, there was complaints coming in and stuff, or like everybody's we're having too many garage sales, that kind of thing. You know, I think then you kind of go down the path, but I don't know, again, I've had more people reach out to me to tell me that they don't like this than I've never had anybody go, man, there's a lot of garage sales going on or whatever. So, again, just my little 2 cents relative to, you know, I don't know, us going in and limiting, you know, saying you can only have 3 sales and 2 outside of the year and whatever, and setting those kind of things. You know, I could see not having like a big neon sign in the middle of the midnight, you know, your midnight yard sale type of thing. I know, but like for us, even with the signage, when we have this village-wide garage sale, we go put our garage sale sign out on 49 because otherwise nobody knows where we're at back there in Maumee Way. I mean, some people don't even know that addition is there now. Like, you know, it's been, and there's a lot of houses back there. So, you know, just little things like that. I think I see the general purpose of it, and that maybe like something to curb that, but I don't know that we need all this and like permits and things like that. And again, that's just my 2 cents. That's why there's 6 of us. So I just am, you know, the first one to run my yap. So
I'll take the heat off of you. So there's a couple things that I think there's a problem is there really isn't a justification. The police have told me there are 0 complaints that they've ever had about garage sales. Now, people have their opinions. I don't like garage sales personally, but my family does. And it's one of those things where, look at, everybody's different. You know, whether it's what's our yards, our houses, they're all part of our personalities. And I can't imagine us all being the same. And if we're talking about a sale down here on 49, sometimes you do this because you need a little extra money. And it sounds like to me when I read this, that it seeks to impose, that just the plain reading says we are trying to target those who need to make a little extra money to survive. Because the person who has 1 garage sale a year, they're not doing it to survive. But having a couple, you know, if you need a couple of them because you've been laid off, you're just cleaning up your yard, we want people to clean up their yards. And I would hate to put a barrier in front of them to go ahead with that. I mean, there's some legal issues too, I think, because we're talking about what people can do inside their home. It specifically mentions porch, which is part of the castle doctrine. It specifically mentions the basement. It specifically mentions places that we do not have any authority to touch. Also, there's also a section in there that says a police officer could go on their property to inspect a permit. Now we're getting into Fourth Amendment violations if we don't have a court order saying they can.
Well,
Bryce, let me tell you right there, I disagree with that.
You can disagree.
No, but I mean, our police officers have much more important stuff to do than to walk around seeing who's having a garage
Oh, you're
sale.
exactly, you know, that brings up another, you're 100% right.
I don't want to put that on our police officers.
That is exactly right. I mean, that's, our resources in this town are already constrained, and having to have somebody go around checking permits, go around to issue them, and everything else just seems like an undue burden on the town and the person. I don't see a need for it. I think it could just cause problems that we don't really have a problem now, other than people don't like it because we're not all the same.
I know you disagree with what's in here. This come right out of Lima, and I would think that their city would be more a little adept on what they can and can't do legally.
Right.
Where you're coming up with it doesn't say they're going inside. It says it has to be posted visually.
You have the word basement, porch, right in there.
But they have to have it posted
So,
on the outside
just-
visual.
Just because the town,
Just to look at the permit
That's
what Bill's
right.
referring to.
Right, and when we mentioned towns before, we said, well, we're not that town. So that could be introduced again.
Well,
We're
I'm
not
just
that town.
saying,
We're not Lima,
you're coming
we are
up with all
Antwerp,
this stuff.
and I don't
That's
wanna live
right.
in Lima.
And I want to reiterate,
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys. Like,
Yes.
I'm not,
I'm
I
just
didn't come
trying to
here
do
to,
is-
yep,
just
I
try
know,
to-
Bill.
some
I didn't come
structure.
here to hammer
Yeah.
you. Like, this
No.
isn't at you and this isn't at that zoning committee. This is the
This is
feedback
just
that we got
this.
from people. And so I just want to reiterate that. Like, I mean, this isn't an attack against you. It's just simply.
Yeah. I'm
with
not
this.
taking it as an attack, I'm
No,
just,
I'm not-
if he's
we're not
coming up with
attacking
this legal stuff.
Right.
If
Yeah,
it's
no,
legal someplace else, it's gotta be legal.
Yeah, and I'm definitely,
Thanks for defending
Above my
the
pay
position
grade.
with the zoning.
yes, that's why I said, like, you guys, give you all the credit in the world because it's not an easy thing. And again, I didn't bring it up to crap on you. I just
Yeah.
bring it up because I don't agree with a lot of the things on it. And so that's why we bring them in and talk about it.
And
So,
you had input from other people that you're sharing with the rest of the council.
Yeah.
My opinion of it is I feel it's a little bit of an overreach for the fact that we are a small community and, we try to let people do what they can. I just wish people would be better stewards of their neighbors, and considerate of their yards. It is a reflection of the village, just kind of I hate to tell people how to do stuff on their own land or what they can or can't do, but and unfortunately, we're just in a position where we may just have to live with it. I just kind of wish people would be a little better stewards of their neighbors, if that's the correct term. But that's my opinion. I feel like this may be a little bit of an overreach for the community.
Sounds like the general consensus is to not even table this, just take this off, or unless somebody wants to make a motion to have Brandon adopted, I don't think we need to sit and hammer it all night long.
We can think about it for the next month. I mean, it's not,
Do we take a vote on it, whether they want it to proceed or to
If somebody makes a
let it
motion to
die of
proceed.
a quick death? That way, there's no sense of tabling it, and then next month bring it up and
Yeah,
hash it out.
that's what I
again.
said, if
the
somebody wants to
majority
make, if
doesn't want
somebody
it,
wants to make a
then-
motion, then so do so, if not, then we're, I say discussion. That's the end of it, if nobody wants to make a motion to proceed to ordinance.
Let's table it for now.
I think we just do done
You
with it.
don't-
I don't think you want to table it, because if you table it, then you still gotta just
Yeah,
say,
let's-
Just want
I just
to-
say if there's no motion, I would say that at this point, end of discussion on it, we'll move on to the next item of new business.
Okay. Commercial motor vehicle and recreational parking. I think everybody here in the council has probably heard about it one time or another. I've reached out to a previous owner of K-Myers IGA and asked them if they ever had issues with it, and they said they've had a lot of issues, a lot of complaints that the drivers would come in after store hours, leave the truck run, leave the headlights on, shining across the street, neighbors would call and complaining about it. So this isn't an isolated issue in one spot. I talked to some residents that live down there on the trailer park on the east side of town, and they said they've had issues in the wintertime with trucks setting out to cross the road, running all weekend, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. So this is what this is aimed at, is it limited, I got another call from the residents down there beside the Dollar General store, and they said it's getting worse. They called corporate again, and it's the same thing over and over. And this isn't trying to target truckers or trying to target anybody else, but again, it's a structure, so if there is a problem, there's something here that the village can enforce. And we want our neighborhoods to be neighborhoods. We don't want them, nobody's wanting to have a semi set beside their house running all night long when you're trying to sleep, or having the lights on shining in and across the road into your neighbor's house. So that's what this ordinance was generated for, and I'd like to have the council's recommendation to move forward to the solicitor to have it drafted into an ordinance.
I'd like to support that one.
And I will tell you just quick, because I went to Dollar General and I talked to Rose, and she's an excellent person. She's done a lot for that store. But I did talk to her today, and I actually asked her about it because I had not asked anybody down there. She said that they did talk to corporate. Corporate put it in the paperwork for the truck drivers, and they actually changed the routes So they've told them they're not allowed to park in that Dollar General parking lot anymore. So Dollar General should not be a problem moving forward. And I know that's kind of what sprouted this. I didn't know about the trailer park, so that's why I don't know anything about that, but I did talk to Rose because I wanted to see, and again, if anything was actually being done or whatever. And she did say that corporate has changed it. They've issued the paperwork to the truck drivers. She said, they've been working on it, but to get it out to all the guys that go the routes or whatever, and they did make adjustments. They've told them where they can go, like Love's or, this way or the other way type of thing. So hopefully that will take care of the Dollar General. Now, that just in general, like relative to that part of it, because I know that's kind of what sprouted this thing, so.
Is there a sign posted there now? Didn't we talk about getting a sign put up?
The store told the neighbors that they could post any sign if they wanted to on the fence to help, but then again, if there's no consequences to it.
Well, there would be, because it's trespassing. She gave the police department permission, and I told the administrator that we are more than welcome to put up no overnight truck parking. And if somebody parks there, in that case, it's trespassing, they get cited per the Ohio Basic Code. As far as the east end of town, I've never in my 25 years gotten a complaint from anybody at the trailer court about semis parking there. That's back when 24 used to run through here for half of my career. There were semis there all night long. If you don't want semis there, it's simple. You just make that no truck parking on River Street.
Yeah, and I don't, that out there, that's where we had those trucks earlier in the year where they were parking by the edge of it and all that stuff. And I think we established that's not anybody's property, that's.
I think we established nobody owns it, so
Railroad.
I don't think the
You still
railroad.
got the right to.
Right, I mean, we can throw up no parking
No owner
signs.
on it,
and-
on the auditor's site.
There's several properties, when they changed 24 to 424 and stuff, the deeds didn't go where they needed to go, so there's property, if you go through and you follow 424, that there is no owner.
Yeah, they're just unclaimed.
Yeah.
Go to court,
But
take it,
well,
charge people.
the process of claiming them is long, like
But it
3
could be done.
years.
It
So I
could be
should start,
done.
you're saying I should start now.
There is a chance.
Squatters' rights.
So,
That's 25 years.
what do we want to do? We want to do signage, or do we want to move forward with?
I could be an advocate for this because of the fact that the idling and things like that, I can see where that's a real nuisance in the village. And if we need something in place that we can cite somebody for idling, no matter what it may be, trucks or whatever, even in the nighttime, I mean.
There's a couple things that I wanna, because I like the idea, but there's some issues with it. And one is section B. I don't think we can do that, where it says, as used in this section, residential area means all areas within the village outside of industrial district. This is redefining all other zones. I don't like
So you just have to
this.
list them all out.
You would have to either list them all out and then specify. I think we got a problem because we have B1 and B2.
Which are both residential.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
B1.
They're
Commercial, residential.
commercial residential on B2.
B1 is not.
Why don't we allow our solicitor just to go through,
Okay.
instead of having a
That's-
legal debate,
that's
let him
right.
bring back.
I think that's a real problem. I think section B is a real problem. The other problem that I see in here is in section A. It specifically says a standalone generator operating or running lights in residential areas. That means if there's a power outage, you could go after somebody in a residential area. This is not applying to just trucks. I've got a problem with that because power goes out here. And this says you can't run standalone. It doesn't say it's diesel. It doesn't say it's reefer. It says standalone. I don't like that because we've got people here that have generators. I bet some of you guys do. That's a problem. And then we also have here, there's another issue, and that is Ohio law specifically allows semi-trucks to run at least 10 minutes every hour. We could be also dealing with interstate commerce if they're out-of-state trucks. And Dollar General are Tennessee trucks, so. A couple things to think about. I like the idea because I hate a diesel truck just running all the time in a residential neighborhood. I get it, but I think we need to make sure that it's really a residential neighborhood. And also the standalone generator, that's my problem with it.
So are you making a motion to have Brandon review the legality of?
I'm still in discussion here, but that's, I mean, maybe I'm reading that wrong, but that's how it's in there.
If power was out, I don't think anybody would be enforced there.
It's not a matter of what we
It's a common
think,
sense
it's a
thing.
matter of what it says. That's why, and if you've got a truck with a reefer on it, they have to be running. Right? You cannot.
Yeah, but they can't, then we say that's where you have to go, cool, you can run it.
Yeah,
You
so-
can't run it here, go to Love's, or
Yeah,
go to
they-
Defiant,
you
you know what I
can't
mean?
park here.
And that's why
Right, right.
Rose said they changed
That's
those
why-
routes, I think, to.
I'm not sure what the
have that.
proper wording is. You're
Yeah.
right. I mean, they have to be running. What is the proper wording there? Sit on the exit ramp. I don't care. Stuff like that.
Which they do.
But
Well,
Right.
but we do have to be careful because interstate commerce laws and the Federal Transportation Board kind of sets these rules. So, and I'm sure Brandon will know that.
I think it kind of falls down to the old ones, good news is you don't have to go home, bad news is you can't stay here. So that's kind of what we're addressing, the fact of where they're setting when they're running, so, we're not saying they can't run, we're just saying you can't sit here while you run. That's kind of what I think this is addressing, is the areas where they're setting.
Well, the way this was drafted was by me.
Okay.
There's no legal term, I'm not a lawyer. I just wanted to get some structure to where, like you said, okay, the generator part, I agree with that. But then again, I just try to bring up something so we can
Sure.
get some structure and if Brandon can go through and check the legalities, that's what it's for. Make sure we're not breaking any state laws or federal laws.
Why don't we do that then? Have Brandon,
Go
have
through
the
it.
council go through it and find out legality as to what's here and then decide if you want to have him draft an ordinance.
Because, right now we got the Dollar
Discuss it all.
General,
So
we
in the
got,
meantime, can we have those signs put up at Dollar General? Or,
I have to get them.
or across from the trailer court? If those, I guess if that's not, I don't know if that's.
Well, I mean, you have a truck that parks there, I don't,
Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, I don't.
Well, if you had permission from the property owner or Dollar General to put them up, then it shouldn't be an issue to put it up there. Because then, like George said, it would be a private, or it's their.
Me and her spoken several times, she's in full.
I mean, it's in the village right away, right?
I would ask that you think
No.
about the time frame. If it's midday and a semi pulls into Dollar General and he leaves it run while he's unloading, the way you have it written, he's gonna get a ticket.
Right. That's another consideration.
it should be like after
After
8
midnight.
PM or
Yeah.
something like
I
that.
would just-
Or
Yeah, that's
after
like the headlight.
store closure.
That'd be great.
Fall in our noise
Some sort of
ordinance.
timeframe.
Yeah, store it.
I know we have a noise
Right.
ordinance, so it should at least abide by that.
Are you thinking that we could just modify the noise ordinance and put the diesel trucks running in there?
I guess I'm not thinking about that at all, but maybe.
Well, the suggestion sounded like that was what
I
you're
just know
thinking.
we have a noise ordinance, so that we was talking about a time.
Maybe we could just include that in there without,
Creating a new world.
without having to redefine residential areas in anything but industrial zones or anything. And Bill, I think you did a good job with starting from scratch.
We'll
The
probably
reason I-
topic.
the reason I put the standalone generators in there, I'm sure you've all watched the news, Oregon, California, but there's a lot of people now that are buying up old campers and becoming homeless, and they're parking them on the streets, they're parking them in parks, they're buying these standalone generators, and that's where they live. And if you don't have anything in place for it, now, okay, so what are we gonna do? We're gonna get them for what? Trespassing, or it's public property, or on the street, so that's the reason that was added. It's not so much targeted at trucks, but it's targeted toward these people that are,
And the standalone generator's not targeted at residents that are using it for backup power.
right, that's, like I said, I wrote this up myself, so.
Sure.
Yeah, no, you did, yep, like I said, I appreciate your ability to. Good
Well,
job.
and if that would become an issue, we could address it. We probably have rules already about trailers, living in trailers anyway, but, I mean RVs,
Yeah, I believe we do.
so.
Perfect, so Brandon's gonna address the legality of it and what we can do and present it.
Okay, on the last item, on the back of your sheet is zoning districts. And at the bottom of the page, where it's a business and related usages, the top 4 items was what was added to that. Part of it is the permanent conditional accessory use table is what it is. We had discussed it that these items like the restaurants, the bars, of course recreational marijuana and the medical marijuana dispensaries were not covered in our current structure. So, and we put in there, what brought it up to begin with was the restaurants, that probably they wouldn't want one back there in William McMichael's addition. They got some empty lots, somebody put in a restaurant. If it's not specified that you can or can't do it, you can end up with it if they can get a permit through the state and all of a sudden you're living next door to a restaurant.
Nice, if it's
So-
an Applebee's.
Yeah.
Well, just gotta drive up because you can use a golf cart.
There you go.
But that was the reason we put it in. Now, you see the P's on there and the C. Originally, the P is that it's permitted in these areas, and the place where there isn't anything, they're non-permitted. And then in the dispensary, they're conditional because the special permits is needed through the state, needed through the village. Just because, like in the dispensaries, the downtown area and stuff are not listed as permissible. It doesn't mean they can't be there, but if they want to be there, then they're going to have to go through the zoning appeals board, just like they are for the parking lots, so that the next door neighbors have a chance, or any property that is affected by it, have the chance to have their word, their voices heard before all of a sudden you wake up next door or next day and you've got a dispensary beside Katie Scoops uptown. That'd probably be one of the last places you want to put one, next to the Court ice cream store, but
I don't know, if that was the ice cream store,
I'm not sure about that, but that might be the perfect target.
But that's the reason this table was generated. They were just added items to it, and
If
we're
P is permitted, A is what?
accessories.
Accessory.
There's a little
Okay.
key right there, too, Bryce, on the left, like right above business and related uses.
Oh, okay, it's on that second page, on
Yes,
the bottom part.
yeah.
Okay.
So that was a structure we thought would be permissible.
Okay, so which one exactly changed?
Top 4. Well, it's
4.
it's
Down
kind of
here.
split
Okay.
down here.
Okay, so moving restaurants, bars, recreational marijuana dispensary, and what were they before?
Well, they were not listed at all.
They were not listed at all, okay.
So you're showing this as an example of the fact that they're not listed.
No, that's part of the book.
That's-
That's another page. When
Okay.
our zoning inspector, he just kind of photoshopped or copied it, and then they went in and added it. So you're seeing page 22 of the permanent up the top, you're seeing page 23 down below it in that small section.
Okay. But you're saying that restaurants, bars, the dispensary and the medical dispensary were not listed
At all.
previously?
Yes.
But professional offices and parking lots were, or were?
Yes, yep. If you look at the original copy, that's where it started, at professional offices.
So
parking
zoning
lots.
wants to add these 4 into the book.
Yes.
So restaurants and none of those were there before?
No. None
So
of them been listed.
that's gonna require an ordinance.
And,
And
yeah,
I think that's
and a
what Bill's
public
asking.
hearing, but,
In a hearing, but
Yeah.
you'd have to have the ordinance drafted to have discussion at the public hearing.
mhm.
So basically, I think what you're asking is for somebody to make a motion to move forward with drafting an ordinance, correct?
Yes.
To make the change to the zoning book.
I really don't see a problem with any of that. And keeping our businesses in business areas and not residential areas. I mean, B2 can technically be both.
Yeah, they use, what, like the restaurant, the bars, this is where they already exist, you know, so that's why
Yeah.
it's permissible and stuff.
So you're technically right now, you could put a restaurant on a
Residential property.
residential property.
It would have to go before the zoning though to get approved with their permits.
Not if they bought the lot and they went through the state and got permits to build.
When you still need construction permits
Got a lot right next to
from the town, I mean, section 800. And
This is looking pretty good.
Well, I mean, once you get the permits from the state, it's pretty hard not to issue a permit from the village.
I'll see, that's where Bourbon Street comes in. They already have the license for the distillery.
Yep.
The business is already gonna be there. And I talked to Todd Cook, he was wanting to be here tonight, but he couldn't because of an illness in the family. But they put that in there, and legally, everything's fine, they've got the state permits, everything's ready to go, but we had no advance warning, I didn't. The zoning board had no advance warning that was going, because we have no structure in our zoning book as far as permits for businesses, you know, you need a permit in order, so we know what business is going where. There's nothing there, so what he did was perfectly fine, but that's what would happen if it's not listed here as, you know, you've gotta have a structure to it, then they can put it wherever they'd like, you know, if they get the state license and away they go.
So it's just closing that.
so, well, how would that affect him with his distillery? Because we want distillery listed. Could we add distillery and brewery at the same time to keep them in the same
Sure.
places?
Yeah, at the time this was written up, distillery wasn't, well, I think he had it in the works. Sounds of things he'd been, you know, working on it for several years to get all the ducks in a row and get his permits. But yeah, there's nothing in here saying it couldn't have been any place.
So add
So just add distillery.
breweries and distilleries to that.
Under bars, probably.
Yeah, you could do it under bars and then the same letters associated with it.
And he's in a B1 business district, where it'll be at now. And
I mean, they are different. Like distillery and brewery might involve health department stuff. I guess bars would too, but
But that's,
I mean,
that doesn't have anything to do
manufacturing,
with us.
production, yeah, okay, sounds good. I think I'm in favor of it. I can't think of something at this moment. So
Somebody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to go with what the zoning and planning suggested in this district redistricting, and then the distillery and brewery adding that into it. Unless, Brandon can think of something.
what zones do you want to put them in? It has to be listed as, you know, where you want them or where you don't.
Right, no, I think that's a
Let's-
good point. I had no idea restaurants weren't included.
No, he's saying your distilleries and stuff.
Distillery.
Distillery and brewery, do you wanna use
Oh.
the same zones as bars?
Same as bars, yeah. I would probably even put it on the same line,
Alright.
unless there's a reason not to.
So Bryce has made a motion to move forward with drafting an ordinance with the recommendations from zoning, but adding breweries and distilleries with the same zoning requirements as bars. Is there a second to that motion?
Second that.
And this accepts what Bill wrote, right, too? I mean, not just adding that, okay.
Yeah. So, motion on the floor, to move forward with have Brandon draft an
I
ordinance.
seconded.
You seconded, okay. So, Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Dean Reister.
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
John DeVore,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Bill.
thanks.
Appreciate it.
This time, I know Brian has already asked for somebody to make a motion to move to executive, but before we do so the people that are in attendance, that, would like to leave, the mayor's, wanna give your mayor's report?
Mayor's court account for April of 2025. Total amount donated to the city is $2,761. To the state was $787.50. Indigent drivers, $31.50. Total is $3,580.
Okay. At this time, we would entertain a motion to move to executive session for, what'd you say, for?
It'll be under 121.22 G2, acquisition of property.
I'll make it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion to move to executive session. Jason Franks,
Yes.
Bill Boylan,
Yes.
Dean Reisner, Dean Reisner,
Yes.
Brian Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason John DeVore,
Yes.
and Brian Smith. So we come out of executive, now I guess we're entertaining a motion to adjourn. Jason Franks, is there a second?
You don't need a
Smith,
second.
Aye.
all in favor, aye.
Right hand. I, John DeVore,
I, John DeVore,
solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
Constitution of the State of Ohio,
Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of the Office of Council
of the Office of Council
for the Village of Antwerp,
for the Village of Antwerp,
to which I have been appointed.
to which I have been appointed. Thank you.
Tough one.